different. Miss Sutton, I don't feel safe. And what if someone comes in here and my friend said, I'm gonna put my body in front of yours. And she has 4 children that are not in that school building. So just to think as an educator, you have to make that choice to protect someone else's child when a stranger comes in. It's just so sad that we're even having to deal with this.
Yeah. And that's not the job they trained for.
No, they're not trained to protect kids from gunshots. They're trained to teach and coach and give them the foundation that they need to go out into the world and be productive citizens. But now we got to figure out if we got to hide behind a chair or my backpack is not bulletproof.
And you keep coming up with asinine ideas. What was it Marsha Blackburn came up with? Grandparents? Can armed grandparents?
Armed grandparents.
Secure the schools? I don't even like to keep my grandkids on the weekend.
You know, those, oh, sorry.
Really, the big picture things, what we're talking about here are trauma responses, right? And we are in a severe trauma epidemic. And the thing that really concerns me is that when negotiating mental health with the people who are now being the people pulling the trigger, come on. So my concern, based off of what the students are saying, I just got goosebumps, is the longer this continues to happen, as you are trained in drills, trains the next attacker to know how to, because we don't understand the manifestos. We don't understand, but we do understand that there is a trauma in the person who's out in the meantime. That is a problem. And so where is the balance of this mental health argument when we're causing the trauma of false threat that has gone through all of Williamson County, as I've heard, and throughout the state of Tennessee, is trauma. Conversation.
When are they gonna realize that everybody's mentally ill?
And I don't know if anybody else is as old as I am, but maybe a couple of folks here. We did drills, and it was because we expected Russia to bomb us. And I can remember how terrified I was and how ludicrous as a 2nd grader it seemed to me. Sitting under a desk, really, if we get bombed? And my partner's mother just objected to that in her elementary school. And somehow they stopped those drills in some school in Illinois, but not in my school. We did them regularly, and it was traumatizing. But this is so much closer and happens so much more often. I can't imagine what it's like for you all.
They gave us dog tags.
In school?
Kids in the school, dog tags.
Right.
Normalizing school shootings is not something that should be doing.
Our threats are not beyond the borders. It's within our borders. And that's what's scary.
Terrorism is within our border.
Exactly.
That's what we got to start calling it.
I mean, even as a hospital employee, we're no longer safe. There was just a shooting there. That's terrifying because we're not allowed to carry weapons onto the premises. But yet we also take oaths and promises to take care of our patients and do no harm and put them first. And it's just really getting to be difficult when we're all dealing with PTSD from what we see on a daily basis.
After the expulsion hearings, I live in Hermitage, so my Uber driver actually lives in Wilson County. Tennessee Free protests, we're not going to let them take our representatives away. And we're going to end gun violence. And she says, people don't kill people, guns kill people. And so I had in my mind like the whole narrative of what I thought she would think, right? And so I was like, well, it is true, guns do kill people, or people kill people, that's true. And also there's all kinds of things that we could be doing. We can help people with mental health. We can make sure that our buildings are safer, but also we need to have common sense gun control. You know, it shouldn't be in the hands of everybody. And she said, that's absolutely right. And then she started crying. And like, you know, from the downtown all the way to Wilson County, that's a long haul. And she cried the whole way. And she said that both her brother and her son died last year shot in her own driveway. So, yeah, and I said, well, if you want to talk to Representative Justin Jones, I'll put you all in touch. And she said that she would love that. So that'll be an email to you. But I think that, you know, that just tells me that the more we speak up, use our voice, the more space it gives for people to actually share their real feelings. Because I know that when she first started talking to me, she was kind of taking the way that people talk about guns, you know, as like, that's just kind of in Wilson County, in that area, like that's how people talk about it. But breaking through the surface, I think that we're actually all feeling the same thing of every background and walk of life.
Yeah.
I think growing up in the South, I was always taught to not talk politics, not talk these things, but our lives are on the line. But I think something that all of us can do in this room when we leave is educate our peers and educate our communities so that we can, if they're not going to act, if Sexton doesn't show up, well, we can vote him out next election. And so it's just about educating because we can find that common ground with people. Because, again, majority we elect to listen to us don't listen to us, they're not doing their job. And so we have options come 2024.
Part of that problem is that Tennessee is a very rural state in a lot of ways, and so a lot of the people in the supermajority are not in these bigger cities, but are generally voting the way we want them to. And so we'll have to flip some seats to disband the supermajority, and that's harder to do. We've got to reach people that we don't know and they don't think like that.
I just got back from Cookeville, Tennessee, trying to educate of how harmful Ryan Williams' policies are. So I just got back from there, and my friend and I are hoping to go to more and just inform the people just by being there and willing to have a conversation and start that conversation in the communities. And so
Miriam's going to a lot of community garden or like community things and leading people through conversations, and she's had a lot of success. So you can follow Miriam on Instagram. You can join us in those combos, and I plan to work on voter registration drives in those counties because Tennessee has the worst voter turnout. So we need to start with that. But
Change Tennessee, Gen Z.
That's the goal. That's the plan.
Well, I'd definitely be interested in DeKalb County. I used to be a top-level manager at Federal Mogul that's in Smithfield, so I employed 400 operators that were in Cookeville and Smithfield. And when my son was killed in July 2020, 70 of those people drove all the way to Nashville to come to his funeral. So I would definitely love to join y'all in knocking on those doors and reminding them of my story and who I am.
I don't know if anyone's seen the documentary. It's called Bloody Limes County. It's about what SNCC did in very rural areas as the anniversary of the sit-ins here. So understand that a lot of the people who came before us have been base building for a long time, right? Their strategies have proven to work that are tried and true. And so like, one, community is key, and we can do nothing. There is no liberation without community. And so then when we're having these talks, we make sure that we're taking them outside of just our small little pigeonholes, right? Like, there are so many of us here, but we, as members of society, have so many other connections out there, and not to forget about those that is easy to forget, right? Like, you've all seen the news articles and stuff that when something happens in like a regressive red state, they're like, let's just leave them behind, right? But like, there are plenty of people here who are doing the work, and there are plenty of people who come before us who are doing the work, and there are going to be plenty of people after us who are going to continue to do the work. And so let's build on those like networks and connections, and like prioritize how we've been successful, and then make course corrections where we feel like we're struggling a little bit. But let's just remember that there are a lot of marginalized communities who can't be here at 1 to 3 on a Wednesday, right? And how can we include them in our movement buildings? There are people who are facing oppression a lot
more, a lot deeper than what we're facing, and how can we put them in? There are felons people who have experienced the carceral system, right, that cannot vote. How do we still include them in our movement spaces, right? I think it's important to remember that we all have privileges, and our lives intersect and very important in different ways, and to make sure that we are cognizant of the fact that we have community members that want to be with us and want to support us, and we just have to be the one to reach out a hand.
Yeah.
Do you have any updates on where Chief of Staff is, Sexton is?
Is there maybe one central group or website where we could all get information? I mean, I get it through organizations I belong to, but if there was one central place where rallies are publicized, etc., I could share that with a lot of people.
Well,
Kids Not Guns TN is the thing that we started as sort of a coalition of all the people, so that it's not one.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of that. We just want it to be everybody, not only one buddy. So unbranded, Kids Not
Gun 10 on Twitter, on Instagram. And do we have a website up? Do we have a website up? Hey,
No website yet.
we're working on a website, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, social media. Guns 10. Kids Not
And
Guns
it's
10.
on, if you registered through the sign up, it's on that. You can find that information on there.
I'm gonna have to
And-
go to my partners in the park.
Oh, good, you got a ride.
On the plaza. No, I have the car keys.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't know where the car is.
Okay.
Did Sophia get
Thank you so
that?
much for being here. Love you.
Did Sophia get that?
Thank you. I don't know who Sophia is. Oh, Sophia.
When we say
Where is
speak truth to power,
Uh-huh.
and when I look across, whether it's corporate America, or if it's someone who's been now representing me in the state that I live in, I don't see very many women. I see more men representing my power. And so what I'm basically saying by this is speaking truth to power is, I think men are feeling a crisis of what it means to have power and be a man. I think men are having an identity crisis as to needing a gun, as we have seen even as an example, you know, the movies that we see, the media represents that power comes with having a weapon. And the more we are socially aligned with men having weapons and identifying their power, and also, I don't know statistically all the national mass shootings we've had, but it seems a lot of them have been men. And I think we need to really think about, when we're talking to the men in our lives, what it means to be a man, and what kind of abuse of power that we're looking to look in the face with having a gun. And that's all I really want to say about that.
I want to speak to that. Before I do, if everyone wants to share themselves now, we're streaming live on social media. So at Kids Not Guns Tennessee, if you go there, follow Kids Not Guns 10. Follow that, retweet it, because we're streaming live there. And also, and if those of you who prefer Facebook, we don't have a Facebook page yet, but it's streaming from my site, Make It Plain, on Facebook, if you want to share that, so people can see where you are and see what you're talking about. Okay, Make It Plain on Facebook. You're exactly right, and studies have shown that. And one scholar I would recommend to people to read, Stephen, is Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who talked about, she got in a lot of trouble for it too. She was made a pariah, even though she was an educated psychiatrist. She did a lot of analysis on this controversial views, a lot of analysis on the mental illness related to white supremacy. But what she pointed out was that, I'll say this as discreetly as possible, guns for many men become a symbol of compensation. Does everybody know what I mean by that? All right. Frankly, sometimes cars do that too, but guns. And if you once someone wants to Google it now, there was one of the AR-15 companies that actually had an ad. It had a picture of an AR-15 and it said, "Restore your manhood." If you Google that, you probably find it on Google. I remember that distinctly and talking about it. So that's the real thing.
What was the author's name again?
Dr. Francis with an E, Francis with E, Cress Welsing. All right. And she talked about guns, compensation, and even the role that plays racially. So you want to look at that. But I think we know what's going on. The good news is, Steve and I were talking about posters and numbers. The two swing demographics nationally that make a difference now are black women and leading the black electorate and suburban, college-educated white women. A handful of them went for Trump. And then when they were at the Women's March with us on the day after inauguration, and everybody flipped. Hopefully, and hopefully this can happen in Tennessee. If women, if you all stay mobilized, because you got two things going on. You got the loss of bodily autonomy and the loss of public safety because of guns. Because you're right, the majority of white men, and there are some white men that are coming over, but the majority of them are still upholding this. Controlling your bodies and controlling the rest of us with guns. And is sick. So to your point is well taken.
And to add on to that, as we talk about gender and race, is that we're here in Morning Covenant, but since then, shootings in Allen, Texas have shown that that white supremacy dies with violence. And that white supremacy, when put on its hind legs, will lash out and it will recruit supporters who may not look like the people who we think will be its final upholders, but who will grasp onto power in any way they can. Because Allen, Texas, and Buffalo, and El Paso, and the shootings in California are just as much examples of gun violence as Covenant and Parkland and Uvalde and Sandy Hook and Columbine. And we have to talk about the fact that the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor are acts of gun violence.
That's right.
Murder of Ahmaud Arbery in Atlanta is an act of gun violence. And that when we talk about abolishing gun violence and the proliferation of guns in our community, it has to include all of those crises. And we can't sit down for any of them. We have to show up for every last one of them, because none of our communities are going to be free until all of our communities are free. And that means that we have to call out each and every one of these actions for what they are. White, male, masculine, white supremacy, dying, and dying violently. But it also means that we are winning. The fact that we are in this office right now and Speaker Sexton is scared and was forced to call a special session with Governor Bill Lee means that Tennessee is finally on the map.
Yes.
The fact that Representative Justin Jones, Representative Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson were at the White House and working calling to power means that people are finally waking up and realizing that Tennessee matters.
Yes.
And the work we've done these last 5 weeks, I want us to hold hope. When we sit here and we talk about all the things we have to build towards and the long road towards justice ahead, it can be daunting. But listen to this now, there is hope here in Tennessee. We are building hope to power. And that is the message I want people to realize, is that we have shown that when we come together, anything that we want to put on the table can be put there, and that we make the improbable possible by putting our souls and our feet on the pavement and by grinding away at power and demanding that the people be heard. So I am so proud of all of us in this room, because we have decided that enough is enough and that Tennessee matters. Georgia matters. Alabama matters. Mississippi
And
matters.
what a
Louisiana,
beautiful
Kentucky matters.
community
Exactly.
when we all are sitting here together. This is gorgeous. Like, we would not all be sitting at some church together or even in a park together or anything like that, but we are united here with one voice, and that is beautiful.
Power to the people.
Yes, power to the people. That's right. Y'all, the bill is coming around, so this is the Protect Kids Not Guns Act. And it's coming around. I wrote a small note to the speaker at the top, and then we're all just going to sign it. Since he wasn't here to receive it, we want to let him know that we were here, and that this is the work that we want to have done, right? So if you can at least, if you can stay until everybody has signed that, that'd be great.
And one thing if we can commit to, because the assistants here and we know some media are here, Cameron's not going to come here, and so if people will commit to, we can take a caravan to Crossville to where he's supposed to represent and inform people of who he is. Can we take a caravan? If you can come to Crossville, let us know. If you can go to Crossville. We're going to go to Crossville, let his constituents know he don't even live in Crossville.
Where is his house here?
He's refusing to meet in Nashville with people who are impacted and want to talk about the crisis of gun violence. So we're going to take care of it. We're going to go with these young people who've been going. They were just in Putnam County. We're going to go over to Crossville with them. So we'll get that planned out. We're going to have a Freedom Summit here in Tennessee. We talked about history.
Yeah.
Let's have a Freedom Summit.
Freedom Summer. What do we want? Freedom Summer.
Where is his house here?
I don't know where it is, but I think it's in Green.
In Green.
I think it's behind Charlotte Park.
More like the name.
Oh, is it?
That's
even closer.
Even closer.
I know, because I'm like, Rossville, I'm not trying.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I want to keep living, so I can keep.
That's right. That's okay. There'll be some of us will be in
I
rural
appreciate
county.
you.
Yes,
sister.
ma'am.
You got my back.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's right.
I go there all the time.
To that point there, and to the point that was being made earlier by some of the other folks too, about folks where you don't expect them to be, right? Allies where you don't expect them to be. Folks in the trenches with you that you don't see in this moment, but are there with you. You go to a place of ministers, made up of professors, made up of folks who have been fighting the good fight for decades. For decades. They are Silver Panthers up there, waiting to take action. Right? And they are in the heart of Speaker Sexton's district. And they feel isolated there. Many of them can't drive the way that they used to, but they're eager to take action. So when we come forward and say, hey, we're here to support you wanting to do the thing that you're here and ready to do, that not only amplifies the voice that we're speaking, but brings more folks into the fold with us. So absolutely, talk with the folks. Talk with your friends in those other communities. Find out where they are. We've got so many blue dots in this sea that looks vast and red.
Go ahead. That's
but
right.
Once you start
That's right.
adding up those blue dots together, all of a sudden this map starts looking a whole lot different. So keep those conversations going. Keep those connections coming, because there's a lot more folks in this fight and in the trenches with us than we ever possibly can.
That's right. That's right.
Come on, I gotta see right beside me. Right beside me.
That's it.
Speaking of the blue dots,
Make sure y'all sign. Okay.
you all signed up. I can remember when this state was blue. I grew up here when this state was blue. I know I look like I look like a Gen Zer, but I was.
So true.
Thank
Here's your
you.
sign. There it is.
Appreciate that. But I remember when it was blue. So the question becomes, what happened? Did everybody blue move out and everybody red move in? No. So we got to find those people. Remember when this state had 2 Democratic senators?
Yes.
I think we know part of what happened. People have been radicalized by Fox News. But now is an opportunity to exploit that breach, because they're on their heels now. They had to fire Tucker. They've got to think about everything they do now, because they got to pay out $1 billion for the foolishness, right? So this is an opportunity to try to go back and get people and re-educate them and bring them back. I don't think, and I mean, there are people who in my generation grew up when it was blue in this state. Everybody didn't move out.
Right.
We just have to go back and find them and say, come back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now.
You know, in that regard, being a rural Tennessean, moved to the city, they truly believe that gun control or gun reform or whatever phrase you want to use for it means I'm coming for your guns. It's not a talking point for them. They believe it in their core. And when I say to my friends, have you read the bills? Have you read the ideas? Have you actually money for for that gun, and you've been using it properly. Why would you want it to end up in the hands of the wrong person? You are for safe gun storage.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I want to keep my guns locked up where they belong, and, you know, those kinds of things. So when you really get to the heart of what the laws that we're wanting to pass say, they go, oh, yeah, I could get behind that. So if you're going to walk into a rural area and try to talk to them about voter registration and why this particular matter is important to you, you have to come at it from an angle of, where are we in common here? Where are we in common? And that, I think, is what got lost along the way.
I think that's key. We have a lot more things in common than people even take for granted.
Absolutely.
And everybody was talking about, reaching these areas and communities, and I think education is a big part of that, because they wouldn't have known had you explained it, had you showed them. So I think that when we approach these places, there's a certain level of education that we have to come with an open heart and open mind and be able to not go in like attacking them, but understanding that we have common ground, we just need to find it. We need to find where the common ground. I think everybody can agree that we need to be able to protect our kids. I saw my 18th month old. I don't want him to inherit this kind of world that we're living in. Everybody's been saying they're pro-life for all these years, screaming out their whole life that they're pro-life. I think that it's our job to take that narrative back. We can take that word. We're the ones who are pro-life. We're trying to take care of our kids. That's not their word anymore. That's our word. If you were pro-life, you would put things in place to take care of our kids. They didn't ask to be here. The least we could do is make this place safe.
I thank Reverend Ingrid and Katie and Chandler and all those who organized us to be here today, because this is, as Representative Jones has been saying, this is a movement, not a moment. And I want to, recommit ourselves to coming out when the call is made. We come out. And we thank the organizers for keeping us on time. And they said 1 and 3. So we thank them for leading us today. And Reverend Ingrid, would you lead us in a closing prayer and a blessing?
Yeah, let's pray. Creator, nice, yes, I'll hold your hand, I'll hold everybody's hand. Creator of us all, I give you thanks for the life that lives in this room. God, I give you thanks for the lives that came before us and the shoulders on which we stand. The shoulders of giants like Rip Patton and Diane Nash and John Lewis, James Lawson. God, I ask that you send your spirit down to empower us, to encourage us, to inspire us, and to keep us on a narrow path, to keep our minds and hearts focused on gun reform. That is what we want. We want gun reform. We want the residents of Tennessee and our country to be able to not just survive, but to thrive.
Amen.
God, we believe that you are powerful and that you are an active God. And so we ask that you move. We know that the Spirit is moving, that the Spirit's been moving centuries before us. But even now, God, we ask that you stir the Spirit in a way that would touch the hearts of some of our lawmakers that feel like stone. And we ask that you soften their hearts, God, that they might see all people as your children and created in your image. God, that they might wake up to the fact that children's lives matter, and that it is the guns, indeed. It is the guns, God. And so may they have the strength and the courage, as other of our representatives have, to stand up for truth, to stand up for safety and protection of our children. Sustain us, guide us, protect us, and keep us until we meet again on June 2nd.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Turn me around. Turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We're gonna keep on walking. Keep on Ain't gonna let no speaker turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let no speaker turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
Yes,
Ain't
everybody get
gonna
to
let
sign.
no governor turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let no governor turn us around. We gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let the NRA turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let the NRA turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no Jackson turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let Cameron Sexton turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Cameron Sexton turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let Cameron Sexton turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Cameron Sexton turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. Ain't gonna let Cameron Sexton turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let